Film Threat, Lanterns Episode 2, let's go. What's up, everybody? My name is Eric, and we're going to be watching Film Threat's review of Lanterns Episode 2. Now, we watched the review of Episode 1 from Film Threat last week. If you haven't seen that video, go check that out. It was crazy. This one is 26 minutes long, so I don't know how much we're going to get through. We're going to try and get through as much of it as humanly possible. I will say they had a bigger panel last week. Some people said they were not coming back to watch the second episode of Lanterns. Maybe some of them were being honest about it. I see a couple faces here that said they weren't going to be watching it. They're still on the panel, so that's interesting. Let's go ahead and see what they got to say.
Episode 2 aired, and I need to go on a rant for a moment.
Okay.
Because I'm kind of pissed off about this.
Oh, all right.
I posted last night on X. This is the second HBO Max DC series featuring full frontal male nudity in a superhero show.
Okay.
Peacemaker season 2.
Okay, well, the show is TVMA. So let's go ahead and just get that out of the way. It doesn't matter if it's a superhero show or not. Superhero content can be mature. That's dumb. It's a superhero show. Yeah, who gives a fuck, right? It's also nothing like Peacemaker. The nudity in Peacemaker is not the same as the nudity in Lanterns. Also, in Lanterns, it made sense, whereas in Peacemaker, it was kind of out of left field. In Lanterns, it makes sense because we're talking about bodies in a morgue, in the freezer. So it makes sense. But go ahead. I want to see you rant about why there's a problem with this on a TVMA show where the context of it was that these are dead bodies and he's dragging dead bodies around. Let's be modest. Let's be modest with these dead bodies. Like he's already going in and taking these bodies out of the morgue and they're shape-shifting aliens. But let's hear him rant.
The opening has some orgy scene with full frontal male. Now, I'm no prude. Okay, whatever.
Well, I mean, if you're not a prude, then what's the rant for? I can't wait for you to articulate why you have an issue with this.
I'm no prude, but I'll tell you, James Gunn's Gods and Monsters, that's the first phase of his DC, should be renamed Dongs of Death.
Right, so we have two times in TVMA shows, they have nudity in it. So now we have to rename the chapter of Gods and Monsters to something else. Two things. And this wasn't even James Gunn's idea. This was Damon Lindelof, Chris Mundy, and Tom King. But go off, Queen.
Because that's what we're getting. Dongs and death of characters.
But not a prude. Not a prude.
This is infuriating.
Not a prude, but so mad you think you should rename this chapter of the DCU. But not a prude at all. It wasn't like there was no sex or anything going on. So, I mean, you're mad that they showed a dead body that didn't have clothes on it.
Infuriating. Then we've got Hal Jordan sneaking dead bodies to prove he's trying to do an investigation.
Right.
Drags these naked male bodies. You know, you could have done that scene and not had them covered or not shown it. It wasn't necessary at all to the story.
I mean, does it really matter though? Like, does it really matter? Ultimately, no. A creative choice doesn't need to be necessary. It's not even necessary for the show to exist. It's not even necessary for DC to exist. See how absurd it is to have this argument? See how absurd it is? We're judging it based on something that it isn't. It's a TVMA show that had nudity in it. Oh my gosh. Let's try and figure out a way to cover up nudity in a TVMA show, because that makes all the sense in the world.
And I just wonder what the hell he is doing.
Who are we talking about? James Gunn? It's not his show. It's not his TV show.
We're off the rails here.
Right.
And not to mention, and we'll get to it, a whole conversation about white male privilege, blah, 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 that sounds so dated. It's out of 2017.
It's a 2016 conversation. So that quite literally is a dated conversation. It happened a decade ago. But we're also going to break that down when they get to it. I can't wait to get into that.
what the hell are we even doing
Right.
with lanterns? I want to hear your guys' thoughts, but I'm serious.
I'm sure everyone on this panel is in lockstep. I don't think we're going to hear any dissenting opinions. I will be very shocked if any of the people in this panel are going to offer any sort of like, I don't know, alternate take on this. I think it's all going to be how bad it is. I could be wrong. I'll take the L if I am.
As someone who knew Gunn back in the day, when he would come to G4 TV,
It's not James
he
Gunn's
was
show.
a recurring guest. He just gotten this job. He just did the movie Super, which
So my issue here, and I might keep tabs on this. It seems like everything is Gunn's fault with these guys. It doesn't matter if it's a Gunn movie, a Gunn cartoon, a Gillespie movie, a TV show made by other people. If Clayface comes out and it's amazing, they're going to claim that the director of Clayface is responsible for it and James Gunn isn't. Because they love to blame James Gunn for everything else, but they won't give him credit.
was a really great little indie movie, trauma inspired, not for kids, a superhero movie that starred Ellen Page and Rainn Wilson. Very good film.
The dead naming is unnecessary, but I mean, I after these guys showed up on a panel for a white nationalist convention, it doesn't really shock me.
And he went from that to doing Guardians, and now what the hell is he even doing? As someone who's defended him for
This was not his show, man. Like, you should understand this, Chris. This sounds really fucking stupid.
for a long time, I'm really questioning what is going on, how he allowed this to happen.
I think it's funny that you are so upset about somebody who is extremely successful in their career. And you're like, how is this happening? How is this going on? I don't understand. James Gunn, someone I knew back in the day who no longer speaks to me. I don't understand. I don't get it.
We'll go in depth, but what do you guys think of Lanterns episode 2? Jump right in.
Well, technically, that was an alien penis we all saw.
Right.
Okay, Alan.
So, temper it down.
Look, I'm no prude, but did you need it for the story? No.
Sometimes things exist in a visual space that aren't necessary for the story. Maybe it's a gag. Maybe it's a joke. Maybe it's to convey emotion. There's other reasons why things exist in movies and TV shows than to serve the story. The question should be, did it take away from the story? That's how you would judge it. Did seeing an alien who is naked as a corpse take away from the story? You don't ask if it adds anything. You would ask if it subtracts anything. Because the only time it would be a problem is if it subtracts from the story, from the narrative. And it didn't. Therefore, it's not a problem.
I mean, you can have complex ideas. You can make it adult. Do we need that?
We don't. I was actually shocked when that happened.
Oh, okay.
I did a watch party on my channel for episode 2, and I was legitimately just, my mouth was just wide open, and I just shouted, "Penis! There's a penis!"
Yeah, I mean, you're one of the people on the last video that we reacted to. You guys have to watch that first video if you haven't. I'll link it in the corner. You're one of the people in the last video that totally misunderstood the show. You lied about it. You lied about Hal Jordan in the first episode. So your credibility is completely out the window. Completely. Like, it's so far down the street. I mean, I don't even know what to think.
I could not believe it. I couldn't believe it. It was it necessary? No. Did it move the plot along? No.
It doesn't have to do either of those things. Did it subtract from the plot? Did it detract from the show? Did it ruin something in the show? And the answer to that is no, it didn't. That's how you would judge something that you deem unnecessary. It doesn't have to add something. Did it subtract something?
The penis was absolutely unnecessary. It was just there for shock value, honestly, and for humiliation. Like, let's just humiliate men. I think that's why they keep showing these flaccid penises.
Also, the issue was that it was soft. All right, fam, that's it. If the alien would have came out as a body, rock hard, and ready for action, then it would be empowering men. Just so you know, guys, if you walk around and you're not immediately stiff, if you're just walking around a regular day or whatever, you're being emasculated. If you don't have an immediate boner at any given moment, you are being emasculated. I didn't know that. I didn't realize that. I guess every guy on this panel with you, I'm assuming, I could be wrong, they're being emasculated right now because they aren't stiff. Brilliant deductive logic here.
It's to humiliate men. It's a fetish for Hollywood at this point to humiliate men.
Right.
Because you don't have these strong men. No, it's just a flaccid male penis.
So that means not strong. I cannot with these guys. Did you just hear what she said? You have a woman on the panel telling 5 guys that it's emasculating to be soft. Okay.
To show male weakness, pretty much.
Right.
I was dumbfounded.
You got
I was
him.
really shocked.
You got dumbfounded is right. Like the founded part can go away. Like dumbfounded. Like definitely. Deductive reasoning here.
When I was watching it, like I just immediately when it started, I was like, okay, we've got like, I don't know, 3-4 fucks within the first minute.
Okay,
right?
it's a
and
TVMA show.
The flaccid penis.
So this is the thing I don't understand. When you're reviewing something that's rated R, you go to a movie that's rated R, do you start keeping track of all of the rated R things they do and then complain that they did them in a rated R movie? No, people don't do that. I could understand if the show was not intended for adults. Then I would say, yeah, maybe you got a point. They shouldn't be saying stuff like that. They shouldn't be showing stuff like that. But it's an adult show. And keeping track of the adult things that happen in an adult show is bad faith criticism.
And we had the conversation about white men.
Yes.
It was really unnecessary. I had no idea what I was watching, honestly. I feel like this could have been a woke show set in the South, and I wouldn't have known the difference, honestly. Like, well,
that's because you're not literate. You're not literate to this kind of media. Because what they were talking about has nothing to do with being in the South. The conversation that Zoe and John had at the table have nothing to do with living in the South. Matter of fact, it has a lot to do with where they're at in Nebraska, in Rushville. And we got a lot of information about her and John in that scene. But I also want to point out, we're at the beginning of this criticism of the episode, and they immediately jump into like prudishness. You can't talk about racism, even though in the context of that conversation, it wasn't even really a serious conversation. They were kind of joking about it in the conversation, but this is where we start out.
Had they not had like the lantern and the ring and then Hal Jordan like flies, I wouldn't have known that this was a lantern show.
Oh, so
this show is ridiculous. Right. It really is. It's ridiculous. It's incredibly boring. Okay. It is so freaking boring.
Right. But like, again, boring is the code word for these guys now because they can't peddle other stuff. I actually feel like they should be giving me some money because being bored is my thing. That's my gimmick over here. They're taking my shit. Stop using boring the way you're using it.
If I'm not doing the watch parties, I'm honestly like not watching this show.
Then don't watch
if I didn't have to review it, I wouldn't.
You don't have to. That's the thing. Nobody is forcing you to do this. You can say, I'm not going to review something I don't like. But the reason why you feel like you have to do it is you don't have anything else to complain about at the moment. See how that works, everybody?
Watch this show because it's just so incredibly disappointing.
Right.
The one good part in this movie was when Hal Jordan's like flying through space.
Show.
That was it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was it.
Let's talk to members of the panel that have penises. Just please jump in
Allegedly.
if you have one.
Yeah.
Well, before they do, let me say something. I mean, statistically, half of those aliens should have been women. I don't know why they were.
Well, there
all men.
were. There was a woman.
But she didn't die. She wasn't
And,
naked on
no,
a
there was a
slab.
woman in the wherever he got in the mortuary or whatever. And she was all covered up.
Of
Yeah.
course.
See, there you go.
Oh, so the issue is they tell on themselves. This, like, I don't even, they're doing the work for me. So the issue wasn't that we saw a naked man. It's that we didn't also see a naked woman. So that's the problem. If we're going to show like dead bodies, then they have to be equally naked. That the criticism doesn't work any other way. Like, why would you even mention that? So it's not even about, so equality, I guess we're DEI now. It's all about equality and empowerment. Like, Alan made a joke about it, but then she came in and actually made it real. Well, there was a woman, but she was covered up. Oh, so your issue isn't, I get it. It wasn't that the guy didn't have clothes on. It's that the woman was covered up. That's the problem.
Yeah. All right,
Be equitable.
guys. I want other members of the
I mean,
panel.
Steph said it all, man. Steph said it all. It's about racial grief.
Mhm.
It's about shock value,
Right.
and it's about mystery box.
Mhm.
That's pretty much what Lanterns is.
Well, I mean, it's a mystery box show. That's what it is. As far as shock value, I mean, you could say that about almost every show. Look at something like The Boys. The Boys existed on shock value for like 2 seasons. You could say the same thing about House of the Dragon. There's lots of scenes in that were just there for shock value. Like, that's a TV thing. It's I don't know how that's criticism. It's literally what they do on TV.
And every episode, they're going to set up some other mystery
Right.
that they'll probably, I don't know
Because
whether
that's
they'll
it's a
resolve it or
mystery
not,
show.
but I mean, this is a dumb show.
Okay.
This is such a low IQ show.
Oh,
and
is it? All
I'm,
right.
I'm
Explain.
sad that this is a part of Green Lantern. Green Lantern should be.
Could you explain why it's low IQ? Like, if I call one of you guys low IQ, I'm going to do it in response to something you did or said that is low IQ. For example, when Steph said that a flaccid penis emasculates men, that's a low IQ comment. That's low IQ. So when you call the show low IQ, I'd like for you to give me an example of what a low IQ show is. I know like low IQ people, I can point them out all day. A low IQ show, I'm not sure what that is.
Cosmic. You know, it should be out there in space. We
Should be
should
big
be dealing with
potatoes.
aliens.
So we're doing this again. We're judging it based on what it's not instead of what it is. You cannot base your opinion on the quality of a show if you are looking for something other than what the show is. I get it. You want more space shit. I won't disagree and say that I would love more space shit. But for me to try and judge a mystery show that we already knew was going to be set in the Midwest and it was going to take place on Earth, to judge that and say, well, the show isn't spacebound. Well, it never said it was going to be. I could sit here all day and judge movies and TV shows on things they aren't. That's why it's not a valid criticism. You're not criticizing the show based on how good it is at what it's doing. You're criticizing it based on what it is not. That is bad faith criticism.
We should be dealing with so much fun and exciting stuff, and we're dealing with some backwater town and, you know, naked dead aliens. I just don't get it, man. This is trash.
No, you don't. That's the one thing I've noticed about the guys that are talking about the show in this way. They don't get it. They think the show is low IQ because it's too high IQ. That's the problem. The show is doing things that if you really think about it and you're watching it and you're paying attention, they make a lot of sense and they pull things together. Right? There's things in the show. We've already got answers to questions if you're paying attention by watching the second episode. We've already gotten answers to questions. But these guys are too set on hating it and not liking what it is. They're going to continue to judge it on what it isn't. I think the show is too high IQ for these guys.
No other word to describe it. It's just utter garbage, man. And I'm sad that they're doing this to one of the great heroes of DC. DC deserves better than James Gunn.
Yeah, I was
Well, it's not a James Gunn show. We're back to this now. Is it Damon Lindelof's fault? Chris Mundy, Tom King, or is it James Gunn's fault? Who's the scapegoat here?
George's show yesterday, and Paul was talking about the fact that this show probably didn't have a large budget, and so they couldn't go full superhero. But what I watched yesterday was it felt like it was Roger Corman's Fantastic Four, where you didn't have a lot of money to do special effects, so you have to imply special effects or imply superpowers. And I'm watching this thing go.
Where did that happen? Think about what happened on the episode, right? So we saw him fly. That wasn't implied. He flew. John made a construct. The construct flew around the whole time. We saw him go to a prison planet where Sinestro was. That wasn't implied. I don't really know where the implied superpowers element was in the episode. And again, you're saying something. If I were to say, like, if I were Alan here and I were trying to make this point, I would say it's like implied. And my example is this thing, this one thing from the episode makes it implied. But saying, oh, it reminds me of the Roger Corman's Fantastic Four, that's more of like I'm going to relate it to something else so that I don't have to actually talk about what the show is. I'm just giving you a comparison without drawing any sort of line between the two things.
I still want to see Green Lantern do something Green Lantern-y.
It's the second
and
episode.
We're still not getting it. It's just very cheap effects and everything's...
It's the second episode. So flying through space to another planet isn't Green Lantern-y. Creating a construct isn't Green Lantern-y. Charging the ring up and saying the oath isn't Green Lantern-y. I mean, keep it a buck.
Everything that happens is being said off screen.
What do you mean by that?
What do you mean? They showed him flying, where you can obviously tell that he was on a wire because his body was just moving back and forth.
Right. So CGI is not like when you guys watch a movie and CGI is in it, you would say, oh, why don't they use practical effects? When they use practical effects, they should have used CGI. There's no consistent standard from these channels.
It looks so silly, and he needed to fly in order to find the courthouse.
Yeah.
Or wherever,
Again, that's the extent of what they're putting into this.
Right.
Yeah.
Practical effects bad. Got it.
I feel like, because everybody knows that they've talked about everything that they pulled inspiration from for this, with as far as True Detective, Yellowstone, all these things. I love that kind of stuff, right? And I like Green Lanterns. I was never a hardcore Green Lanterns guy, but I like it. But it's one of those things where this show doesn't feel like it gets where it's pulling inspiration from on either side. It doesn't get the Green Lantern shit.
You keep, these are the same criticisms you gave the first episode. This is dialed in criticism. It's actually funny to me that this is what we're doing. There's a lot of stuff that happens in episode 2 that you could be talking about. I did my nerdcast. I talked about it. I mentioned a bunch of stuff that happened. It's a lot of interesting elements. But this tells me that you either didn't actually watch it and you're just talking about it vaguely on the panel because you need to talk about it and you might have seen a couple of clips online, or you don't have anything relevant to complain about. So you're just reverting back to default. I'm going to complain that it doesn't like the source material. So I'm going to complain again in episode 2 of an 8-episode series.
It doesn't get the Yellowstone, True Detective, all of that. It just feels like a cheap copy of both and kind of disrespectful of all of it, of every last bit. Now, with that being said, like
disrespecting media gets a big fuck you from me. I think that's such a lazy criticism. Disrespectful. Okay. How so? How so? This is the thing. Accusations without evidence drive me up the wall. Up the wall. I feel like, it seems like, I believe that. These are all things that you have no proof of. We got it. You're not a Lanterns fan. Not sure why you would think it's being disrespectful to Lanterns if you don't really read the Lanterns comic books. Like, that's a weird thing to say. True Detective, whatever, it's disrespectful to that. In what way? In what meaningful way is it disrespectful to that? Because it's not doing it as well as that show? That's disrespectful? Articulate and set up some sort of like standard for why you think it's disrespectful.
Despise this show. It's just Like I
Right,
just
it's
don't
mid.
really. I'm uninterested. This
It's
is one of
boring
those
and
where
it's
like
mid.
I'm somebody who pushes for the weekly model.
Boring and mid is a concession that it's okay, and you just don't want to give it any credit. That's I stand by that with these channels. I stand by that.
like the weekly model release of things, but with this show, I'm like, you should have done this binge because I'm starting to not give a shit from episode 1. Like I needed this all in one go.
Right.
And so
that would have made it better. So let me get this right. It's disrespectful to these other things, which would mean that you don't think it shouldn't even be, it shouldn't exist, essentially. If it's being disrespectful, it shouldn't exist. But also, you're so interested in it, you want it all as a binge model. So you could watch 8 hours of this show that you find utterly disrespectful and I'm going to press X to doubt on that one because that doesn't make any sense. Why would I want to binge 8 hours of TV when I find it to be disrespectful and meh? That's not going to make it any better.
I think it's just kind of it is a disappointment, even if regardless of what camp you fall in as far as interests, and you can just feel the same tropes, all the shit we've been seeing for years. And I mean,
you have yet to say anything about the episode. This guy has not said a word about episode 2. This is all word spaghetti complaints. That's all this is.
This shouldn't be surprising from the dude that put out the Watchmen show, which is like one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life.
Yep.
And so it feels like that. I'm getting vibes of like, I don't know if you guys, I tried to watch Lovecraft Country back when it came out. I'm kind of feeling a little bit of that in there. Like it's just
it's really interesting that the 2 shows you mention, right? The 2 shows you mention tackle racism. And for some reason, you couldn't get into it. I'm not saying anything. It's just an observation.
I have a lot of problems with this show, just like you guys. Y'all kind of were right on it. And then I'll say,
yeah, because you're letting them say everything and you're not saying anything. I don't think you watched episode 2.
When I saw him flying in space and got him in his costume and, he's going to see Sinestro and stuff at the end of season 2, I'm like, this is what the show's supposed to be. Like this
at the end of season 2. So you saw a clip online. It's not season 2, it's episode 2. God, like,
it's cool when you see the lantern. You're like, oh man, I get to see this cool looking gritty, like the lantern and just these aspects of what the actual Green Lantern stuff is, which is barely in here. It gets me excited. And then I remember what show I'm watching and I'm like, damn it.
It's barely in here. So let's talk about what happened in episode 2, just to fill you guys in. We had constructs, we had flying, we had the Green Lantern suit, we had the ring getting recharged, we had the oath being spoken. We mentioned Manhunters. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Lantern stuff that happened in episode 2. But according to these guys, it's barely a Green Lantern show. Barely. We had a meat-eating plant and a pocket dimension. Okay.
Badger, what are your thoughts?
Oh, God.
I'm tired. I'm tired of them fucking saying, oh, we pulled from the comics, but then they just pure from whatever obscure little run that lets them do what they want to do. And
well, then they still pulled from the comics. I mean, if they make a episode about a one-off comic book where something happened that they think would be interesting for the show, they still pulled from the comics. So the standard here, I'm trying to keep track of the changing goalpost from these guys. So originally it was like, we just want it to be like stuff from the comic books. Now the goalpost is we want it to be like stuff from the comic books, but not that one thing. Not that one specific thing that we don't like. We don't want that. I want it to be what I want it to be, which is what I said last week. That these guys don't care about fidelity. They just want it to be exactly, specifically, whatever comic book run or version of these characters that they want. Like, they don't care about what story they're pulling from unless it's a story they like.
then they take out all the context of what made it work in the comic. And then people go, well, you know what happened in the comics.
Yeah.
Why do this show? Now, the answer to that is clearly this is HBO that wanted it to be True Detective, because we heard even when it was with Greg Berlanti and Mark Guggenheim, they wanted to do cosmic, and HBO was like, no, more True Detective, which means spend less money. You could have done a question show. You could have done any number of detective show.
Again, we're judging this show based on what it's not. I want to remind you guys, and when I say this, please understand this, and anybody that is a self-respecting critic or somebody that actually gives a fuck about this stuff, when they talk about something, pay attention. If they start drifting off into, it's not good because it's not this thing, they're not actually critiquing the show. The issue here is he cannot articulate any of his problems with the show without complaining about what the show is not. You need to talk about the quality of the show based on what the show is trying to do and what it's trying to deliver. No one on this panel, last week or this week, has actually done that in good faith. They've ignored what the show is because they don't like the fact the show is a mystery show based on Green Lanterns, where it pulls in inspiration from non-comic book sources for the narrative of the show. They don't like that. They're the ones that have an issue with it. So they're not going to actually tackle it or steel man what the show is. They're going to straw man the show. And that's all this has been, is a bunch of straw manning of what the show is.
And had this been slow moving, ground and gritty, but it also still baffles me that we've made almost every single mistake that the DCEU made of, we'll just have everyone past their prime. Yeah.
Jon Stewart's not past his prime. You mean the white guy, right? Because you're not including the black guy. It's everyone but the black guy is past his prime. Got it. I forgot how we get down over here on Film Threat.
I'm just tired of it. I'm so fucking tired of it. And yeah, then everyone liked at the end when Sinestro showed up to do his Hannibal Lecter scene. When we could have just had an entire series of Sinestro being the training officer. And
we don't know what's going to happen because it's the second episode of an 8-episode series. And if you see here, like, stuff in this episode did start to answer some of the questions in the first episode that these guys had an issue with. See how that works? As the season goes on, if you're watching it in good faith and you want to pay attention instead of just complaining about James Gunn,
showing him being resentful of the Green Lanterns and like, oh shit, he's going to go to Yellow Lantern, and Hal being the best of the Lanterns. Instead, we've just gone to the end of that story, and then we just change the lore however we want. And they'll just defend whatever they want to, the Gunn fans, just because they don't want to be on the same side as us.
Well, I'm not a huge James Gunn fan. I'm not defending James Gunn. I've had issues with stuff James Gunn has done. I don't think he's perfect. I don't think his Superman movie was like a 10 out of 10. I don't believe that. I just don't hate him like you guys. There's a difference. I am indifferent to James Gunn. Sometimes I like his movies. Sometimes I like his shows. Sometimes I don't. I was very critical of the Nazi Earth in Peacemaker season 2 because I don't think he handled it very well. I thought it was very haphazardly handled. I think he could have done more to make the story stick, but I was judging it based on what I got in the series, what I was seeing on the show, not based on some random comic book run or something like that. I was quite literally paying attention to what was going on in the show. So I'm not a huge James Gunn defender. It's just weird, though, that you guys always go to James Gunn. It doesn't matter if it's a Supergirl movie directed by somebody else. It doesn't matter if it's a Lanterns TV show directed by somebody else. It's always him. At a certain point, you have to spread out the blame based on creative decisions made by people other than James Gunn. Because even if James Gunn likes an idea, he might not have been the person that came up with the idea. And therefore, the creative blame should land on the person that made the decision that you didn't like. So when you constantly just go James Gunn, it's very lazy. It's very lazy and it's very easy.
It had a pretty strong debut. Here it is. Lantern premiere pulls in 9.3 million viewers in first 3 days on HBO Max. That's sizable. That's decent. How will that hold by episode 8? And Ira, a prediction. We're not going to find out the fate of Hal until episode 8. They're going to run that mystery into the ground. This entire episode 2 took place in 2016 in the past. No time jumping. Mm-hmm. It's all set up mystery box. But I think one of the most annoying things about this episode was that speech. Probably going to have to cut this out, and we're going to get hit. But let's watch this speech. You know what
We're not going to watch it here only because I'm not trying to get in any trouble. So we're going to skip ahead beyond the speech, and then hear them cry about it. That's what we're going to be. We're going to watch them cry about it.
Complains about, white men and their money. Growing up, the richest people I knew were Indians.
I love anecdotal stories. It doesn't really address any sort of systemic issues. So, cool story, bro. Not really relevant.
I grew up in a very affluent neighborhood in Palos Verdes, and they're Indians, and I worked for a lot of Indians. I don't know where she gets this idea that
so because you knew a lot of rich people who happen to be Indian, her experience with racism isn't real. Also, it's a fictional world.
Can't relate because
were they
she's
eccentric?
Yes, they were. Oh my god.
Yeah,
I mean,
not
the
complaining.
mansion. So I worked for a computer company. We mentioned this yesterday, but I sold Apple computers. The company was run. The store was run by Indian family.
Okay.
And filthy rich, and their house was filthy rich as well.
I don't like this kind of stuff is what they do to lock in some of their viewers. They tell a personal story. I don't mind sharing something anecdotal, but I also understand that my anecdotal stories don't necessarily speak to the larger world. Like they don't. They're just little fun stories that I can tell. Here he's dismissing her story because he knew Indian people who were rich when he was growing up. Cool.
And what preceded this conversation was a conversation that about like, Jon Stewart comes up to her and says, so are you into that? What are you into? Like, is it open marriage? Like they got this whole weird conversation about sex fetishes.
So here's the funny thing. The last time we watched your video here, you guys were mad that they didn't address it in any meaningful way. You actually were mad that John, if I remember correctly, I don't remember which one of the panel was, that John didn't really address it in a meaningful way. Now they actually tackle it and try to determine what this situation is. And now it's a problem again on a TVMA show.
Nudity and put the dong aside for a moment. Put the dong conversation aside on the corpses. You're going to watch this show with your kid. This is the big problem.
It's a TVMA show. I certainly hope no one is watching it with their child. Listen to me out there. If you are a parent and you're sitting down with your kid to watch a TVMA show, and there happens to be some inappropriate stuff for kids in the show, maybe that's your clue that you shouldn't be letting them watch a show like this. There's been no... Like, they haven't advertised the show as PG-13 or G. We know it's a TVMA show. We know that. So I'm not really sure why he's pretending that it's a family-friendly show where you're sitting around the table with the kids, eating popcorn, watching lanterns. I don't know where that comes from.
Problem I have with DC. The people running it don't feel any obligation to create real heroes for even look, you know what? So much old superhero content, you could see it. Adults can see it, kids can see it. But this, no kid, I would not let any kid, my kids when they were younger, they would not watch this show.
Good, because it's not made for kids. Is there something wrong with you? Is no one in the panel going to speak up about this? Like, it's not a show for kids. It's not a family show. It's based on True Detective. Of course it's TVMA. What are we doing? If you want your kids to see a Green Lantern, take them to see Superman. Sit down and watch Superman with them. They don't have to watch the show. Not every single thing dealing with superheroes has to be family friendly and age appropriate. That's a dumb standard.
Be bored to watch it anyway.
They'd be bored. But more.
But even if they
importantly-
juiced it up and made the story interesting, it's like I'm not letting my kid watch this shit.
Exactly.
What world are we in? It's TVMA, fam. What are we doing? Who's sitting around with their kids watching the show? Unless your kids are like 17, 18, 19 years old, or are actually full-blown adults, like in their 20s and 30s, who's sitting around and watching this with their kids? This is the shit I'm talking about. As a critic, you do not judge a show that is TVMA based on whether or not it's all ages. What the fuck are we doing?
And hell, I'm letting my
What
kid
I'm
watch
saying-
this, man. That's
well,
the problem.
Look, I know.
Like, think
most-
about this about this for a minute. Like the MCU, the way the MCU started out, and that's what I think Warner Brothers wanted when they got James Gunn. They wanted him to create an MCU for them. Okay, so give us the classic characters, give us something that everybody can come to watch. We can crank out a few billion-dollar films, and there we go. That's what James Gunn's assignment.
Well, this isn't a movie. There's no money attached to this from the box office. We're not talking about a movie.
It was, and then he decided to go full frontal nudity and orgies and all of this stupid shit. All right,
That was a TV show
in
as
the
well.
first episode of Green Lanterns. And it's like, wait a minute, I thought we were supposed to get something that could build up the DC universe.
No, they said this was going to be like Star Wars, and each project was going to be independent of each other. Matter of fact, let me find the full quote. All right, we got a couple quotes here. People say, oh, the DCU is doing what MCU is, but I think it really is a lot more to me what the Game of Thrones world is like, or Star Wars, because we're building a universe and then picking out little pieces of it and telling individual stories from that universe. He went on to say, there is not a Los Angeles in our DCU. There is a Metropolis, Evergreen, and Coast City. It's a different map. It's a world in which some form of superheroes, which we call metahumans, have existed for at least 300 years, and they've been a part of your life. So there it tells me that he wasn't trying to do the MCU. He explicitly stated that's not what they're doing. So you're creating a standard from what Warner Brothers wanted from him that contradicts his public statements that certainly Warner Brothers heard and didn't have an issue with it. They didn't correct him. So this again is just disingenuous.
And, you know, people would continue to watch it and follow it and go along with it. This is what James Gunn, in my opinion, is failing at big time. He should be like inviting the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders that never grew up with DC and don't know anything about these characters. He should be inviting them into the universe, into the comic books, and making them become fans of the original works that he didn't create. That's, to me, is the way you do this. Like hearing Damon Lindelof.
So I don't truly get it. These guys want like the sexiest women possible. Thongs, boobs bouncing, stuff like that. But now the standard is this needs to be made for like people in middle school and high school. All right.
Talk about, oh, well, it's not our job to, well, I forgot what the hell he said. It's like he said something to the effect of, we're not supposed to be like taking it verbatim, or I fucking forgot the words he used, but
it doesn't,
you should,
it doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with what you're talking about.
Actually be looking at the source material and trying to do the source material justice.
Right. That's subjective.
He said he doesn't want, nobody wants you to be vigilant.
They're vigilant. That's the word that I was trying to remember. Like the hell
material.
we do want you to be vigilant. We want you to stick to the script, because these
You do not, because I would challenge you to name 5 MCU movies that are hits that are taken or translated word for word, beat for beat from a comic book story. You can't do it. It's impossible.
characters you didn't create that became popular. You know how many comic book characters exist out there and they never get to this level? Why did Hal Jordan become this popular? Why? Oh, it's because he's this kind of a character. That's what we want to see, the character that became popular, not your bullshit bastardization of it. That's not what we want.
Right. Well, I really think Alan, you're a father, Derek, you're a father, Blaine, you have young kids.
I'm going to stop it here. I can't do it anymore. This whole, it needs to be made for kids or I wouldn't watch it with my children. This is about this is, to me, is the biggest red flag. Matter of fact, I haven't done it in a while, but let's go ahead and do it here. This is a big red flag for me because this tells me that these guys don't give a fuck about real criticism. They're not here to review this in good faith. That's the best term I can use. Good faith. They're not here to review this in good faith. And the reason why is because they keep going back to this idea that the show can't be watched with your kids. I'm not going to sit here and listen to them go on and on about that. The show is TVMA. It's been TVMA since conception. There's no reason why anybody should expect to watch this show with their children. These guys don't even want all of these projects to be made for kids. Superman is a movie that can be watched with kids. They didn't like Superman. So simply making lanterns for kids doesn't all of a sudden improve the quality of the show. And this is what I'm talking about when I say judging something based on what it is and what it isn't. If the show were made for kids and the same team were still making the show, these guys would still dislike it. They would find something else to complain about. So we're judging the show again on the merits of something that it isn't. This isn't real media criticism. These guys are bad faith, they're disingenuous, and no one should take them seriously.